In this video, we're going to learn how to use a website called Machine Learning for Kids. If we just Google that one, Machine Learning for Kids. We're going to use this website to help understand a little bit more about how computers can create models to imitate artificial intelligence using machine learning. And on this website, if we click on Get Started, and we can try it for free without registering first of all. The way this website works is you need to sort of create a project so you can feed the system some either some images or some text or some sounds that it will be able to train a model to identify those different things. It's already got some examples pre-built for it though that we can use and get some practice with before we think of creating our own. So we're going to use this project here called Cats and Dogs. And the nice thing about this is that they've already done some of the hard work for us. Now this is an example of something called supervised learning, where you feed into the system known images and you label them correctly. So you have a series of images that you know are of a cat, and then you have a series of images that you know is a dog, and you label each of those images as you feed them kind of into the machine. So let's have a little look at this in a bit more detail. So that first step there of the training, as we say nicely, they've done this for us, and what they've done is they've created two labels. We could create another one here if we wanted to for perhaps horse or something, but they've had two labels, one called cat and one called dog, and they've gone away and they've sourced a whole series of images for us. There's 20 images of cats and 20 images of dogs, and they're in the correct label. So that's done for us. Now the next thing that needs to happen is the system needs to basically analyze all of that training data and come up with a computing model so that it can, when you feed it new images, it will kind of be able to try and determine which of the labels the new image matches. So in order to do that, we click here where it says Learn and Test. And it tells us that we've got 20 examples of a cat, 20 examples of a dog, and if we want to we could go back, but now we're at the point where we can say, okay, train a model using that example data that we've set it. So it's now, this is why we call it supervised, because all the data has already been pre-provided here for them. And this takes a little while. It's having to sort of look through all of those images and determine different characteristics and things about the images to build this model. But it's done now. So what we can do is we can actually test this here. There's a couple of different ways. If we had a dog handy or a cat handy, we could use our webcam, or we could try drawing one, or we can feed it a web address of an image, and it will tell us if it thinks it's a cat or a dog. So let's try that. So let's go to images. Let's try find an image of a dog. I'm going to choose this one here. In order for this to work, we need to give it the web address of where this image exists on the internet. So here we right click on Google and we say that we want to copy the image address. So let's just copy that to the clipboard. Let's just check that that's worked and paste it in here. And there we go. So we're going to give to our system here this web address of where a dog is. And we're going to say test to see what you think that is. And as you can see here, it goes in and it recognizes that the image that we provided it is correctly a dog. Okay, and it's giving it a confidence of 91%. That means that it's pretty confident that it was a dog, but maybe there's some characteristics in here that match some of the characteristics that it was seeing within a cat. I don't know, perhaps cats' tails are quite pointed or something like that. So it's not 100% sure, but it's pretty confident. It's 91% sure that that is a dog. Okay, so we have gone through the stage where we have provided the training data. and we've told the system here to build a model, and we did a little test ourselves to see if it was kind of working. And the idea now is that once you have this model, you can use it in projects. Okay, so perhaps you have a closed circuit television system that CCTVs that's trying to find cats and dogs, and if they're kind of on your premises and things, and tell you which ones they are. So we can use that within code. And this system has been set up so it will work with either Scratch as a programming environment or Python. So we're going to choose to use Scratch here. It's telling us that what it's going to do is when we open up Scratch, it's going to add some extra sort of features into the standard version of Scratch for us, and it's going to pass into it this model that it had trained and created that can recognize cats and dogs from pictures. And these are the blocks that it's going to provide for us that we can use. So if we click on Open in Scratch. Okay, so let's sort of see how we could use this within a computer program now. So if we kind of go in and we say that we are going to, when the green flag is clicked, what I'm going to do is we're writing some code for this sprite here, and we're going to use the sort of image of the sprite itself to see if the model can determine what's a cat and what is a dog. So when the green flag is clicked, we want to say, we're going to use an if statement, and we're going to check to see if the system thinks that an image is equal to the label of a dog or a cat. So obviously if it's not a dog, it'll be the cat. So we'll say equals the dog here. Okay, now we're going to grab in the actual model itself that had been generated. Okay, and we're going to pop that in there. But we need to provide it with an image. So luckily for us, inside of Scratch, that's nice and kind of easy. What we can do is we can say, get the image of the costume of the current sprite that we're working on. So when I drop this costume image here, what that's going to do is whatever the current sort of costume of the sprite we're working on, it's going to take that as an image and feed it into that model, and then it's going to give us an output that's either going to be the label for a dog or a cat. And we're checking to see here if it thinks that it's a dog. We might say if we think it was a dog that it will say woof for 2 seconds. If it thought it was a cat, if it's not a dog, it will say meow. No idea if that's how you spell meow. Okay, I think we're kind of ready to give this a go. Now, let's bear in mind that this picture of a cat is not really a photograph like all of the other ones, so I'm not sure if this is even going to work, but let's try it out. No, it's correctly identified that that picture there is actually a cat, which I'm quite impressed with. As we say, as I said back here, if we looked back at the training data that it had for this, there was no sort of pictures of cats in sort of cartoon style there. What we could do though is we could just sort of check to see, is this kind of really working? Well, let's go in and let's change the costume of this cat to be a new picture. Let's sort of do it by maybe feeding in an actual image. And I downloaded a picture of a dog before, the picture that we were looking at. And here we go, here's our picture of our dog now. So hopefully this time when we run the code, it's going to recognize that it is a dog and no longer a cat. And there we go, woof, it's worked out that it is a dog. Quick recap then on what we kind of did here and what we've looked at. We've been using this website, Machine Learning for Kids, to first of all to train, to gather some training data, and we used a built-in project to do that for us. And then it generated the model that was able to try and determine which of the two labels were right from the training data. And then finally we were able to use this model inside of a programming environment such as Scratch to check to see if it was a cat or a dog. Okay, if you kind of want to take this a little bit further, what you can do is you can go back and you can try to maybe start your own project and look at some of the other examples that are here in Machine Learning for Kids.